Okay, so we are starting this classification of magnetic materials. Now we classify the magnetic materials in three groups. One is diamagnetic, then we have paramagnetic, and we have ferromagnetic. Okay, diamagnetic materials like example copper, zinc. Okay, paramagnetic materials like aluminium, sodium, and ferromagnetic materials like iron, cobalt, nickel, etc. So means magnetic material simply means that the materials which are when placed inside a magnetic field, some effect occurs on them. Okay, they show some effect. They are magnetic materials. Some change they show, right? Now these materials, the magnetic materials, can be classified into three groups: diamagnetic, paramagnetic, ferromagnetic. Okay, we'll discuss one by one all the three. First of all, we will start with diamagnetic materials. Okay, where this behavior of diamagnetism will be shown by the atoms which generally have a paired electrons. Okay, the outermost means they don't have any unpaired electrons. They have all the electrons paired electrons. So let us suppose that we have a atom in which there is a pair of electrons. Okay, and that pair of electrons, one electron is moving in you can say this direction, and other electron is moving just opposite to it. Okay, both the electrons are moving with the same velocity as they are located in the same orbit, but they have opposite direction of revolution. If one is revolving anti-clockwise, the other will be revolving in the clockwise direction. Okay, so what will be the direction of dipole moment? This will be the direction of dipole moment, and this will be the direction of dipole moment of this electron, right? This is electron, this is E dash, the second electron. Now what happens in general case, that the dipole moment of this electron and the dipole moment of this electron, they are opposite and equal to each other, so they cancel out each other. So in general condition, means when these materials are not placed inside a magnetic field, external magnetic field, they behave like a non-magnetic material. They don't have any dipole moment of their own. Now when we apply a magnetic field, suppose in this direction, the external magnetic field is applied in this direction. So what will happen? This electron here in this electron is having the velocity in this direction, so it will experience a magnetic Lorentz force in this direction, Fm. You can have it with the help of, you can obtain the direction with the help of right hand thumb rule. Like suppose the electron is revolving like this, okay, this way. So we can obtain this by Fleming's left hand rule also, by the Fleming's left hand rule. That electron is moving in, suppose, this direction, anti-clockwise. So this is field, this is that current, and current direction will be opposite to the direction of electron, and this is the direction of force. So field is downward. Okay, the current will be opposite. If the electron is revolving anti-clockwise, then direction of current will be taken opposite, will be taken clockwise. So if I put my hand like this, so field is downward, right? The direction of current is this direction, so force is outwards. Outwards means not towards the center of the center of the revolution of the electron, right? So it means that what will happen? This force will slightly decrease the velocity because it is opposite. It is not towards the center, but it is opposing that force. Here, who's providing that centripetal force? It is the force of attraction between the nucleus and the electron. Now this force is opposing that centripetal force. Means what it will try to do, it will try to change the path of this electron. Okay, but it is bounded to the nucleus. So what is happening? There is a opposition in the forces, and that will slightly reduce the velocity of the electron, and therefore it will slightly reduce the dipole moment also. Okay, so this electron, now this, due to this electron, the dipole moment of the atom is m minus delta m. Whereas in that case, you will find that when you will apply the same rule, you will find that the force will be towards the nucleus only, and therefore it will slightly increase the velocity of the electron. As a result, this dipole moment will be slightly increased. Okay, so now if I take the net dipole moment, net m is equal to m plus delta m, just a minute, m minus delta m and minus m minus delta m, like this. Okay, the difference of the dipole moments is, this is equal to minus 2 delta m. What this minus sign indicates, how much dipole moment it will develop, the pair of electrons will develop, it is twice of the delta m, a very small value. But this negative sign indicates that the dipole moment will be developed opposite to the direction of magnetic field. Okay, so what is the property of diamagnetic materials? That when they are placed inside an external magnetic field, they feebly get magnetized. Feebly means weakly. A very weak magnetization takes place in a direction opposite to the direction of magnetizing field. This is your magnetizing field. Magnetizing field means who's magnetizing the atom. Okay, so they get magnetized in a direction opposite to the direction of magnetic field, the magnetizing field, right? So these are diamagnetic materials. Now, since it is about the revolution of electrons around the nucleus, and it is independent of, in simple term, just a simple fact is that it is independent of temperature. Independent of temperature. Okay, there is no effect of temperature on diamagnetic property, right? So what is the definition of diamagnetic materials? That they feebly get magnetized. The materials which get feebly magnetized in a direction opposite to the direction of magnetizing field, when they are placed inside an external magnetic field, are called as diamagnetic materials. Example, copper, zinc. Okay. And one more thing you can note down, that this that origin of diamagnetism, the concept was given by S.J. Bergman. S.J. Bergman. This was the this concept is the this concept was actually given by S.J. Bergman in 1778. 1778. Now next we move on to the next one, that is paramagnetic. As I told you, that like aluminium and sodium are the examples, and the concept of origination was given by Langevin. It was given by Langevin. Okay, what he said that, okay, first of all, what is who shows this paramagnetic behavior? The atoms which have unpaired electrons. Means those who don't have any unpaired electron, they show diamagnetism. Now the atoms which have at least one unpaired electron, they show this property of paramagnetism, right? What happens is, this is suppose a magnet. So there are some unpaired electrons in each atom, and so they all have some dipole moment. Each and every atom have a dipole moment. right, like this. But what is happening there, that the direction of their dipole moment is random, means the dipole moments are randomly directed. Okay, now why they are randomly directed? Because of their temperature, they have some internal energy, and because of that they are randomly directed. Now if you take the average dipole moment, then since a small material itself have a large number of atoms, so therefore each, suppose this atom is having this direction of dipole moment, then there will be some other atom which will be having equal and opposite dipole moment to this atom. So on an average they cancel out each other, and what is the dipole moment of this whole material? It is equal to 0. Means when they are not inside a magnetic field, in external magnetic field, before placing them inside a magnetic field, they are randomly directed. They have individual dipole moments, but they are randomly directed in such a way that the average value of the dipole moment becomes 0, and hence they behave like a non-magnetic material. Now, but when we place them inside a magnetic field like this, what happens is that they slowly and gradually they start to align themselves along the direction of the magnetic field like this. Okay, and hence they develop a dipole moment in this direction, right? So what they are doing, that when these materials are placed inside a magnetic field, inside an external magnetic field, they get magnetized. They produce their own magnetic field. They get magnetized along the direction of the external magnetizing field, right? Although the extent of magnetization is feeble, is very small, right? They get weakly magnetized. So what is the definition for paramagnetic materials? The materials which get weakly magnetized or feebly magnetized along the direction of magnetizing field. The materials which get feebly magnetized along the direction of magnetizing field are called as paramagnetic materials. Small amount of magnetization will be there, but it will be along the direction of magnetizing field. In diamagnetic, it was opposite to the magnetizing field. Okay, so they are paramagnetic materials. Okay. Alright, now this alignment of the atoms, this alignment of the dipole moment, it depends on the temperature, because if more temperature will be there, then this alignment will be disturbed, because the atoms will not have a stable state. Okay, they will be at the higher energy level, so they will be unstable, and if they will be unstable, then this dipole moment, this alignment of the dipole moment will break. So it depends on temperature, and for that their dependence on the temperature is given by Curie's law. How this paramagnetism depend on temperature? It is given by a law called as Curie's law, and it states that the intensity of magnetization, that how much this intensity of magnetization means how much magnetization of this material will take place. We denote that by M. M is intensity of magnetization. Okay, you will have to be clear with the words. Magnetizing field is this, and this is magnetized material. Up to what quantity it get magnetized is intensity of magnetization, right? That intensity of magnetization is directly proportional to H. What is H? H is the intensity of magnetizing field. Intensity of magnetizing field. Now magnetizing field, this H is here. This is the magnetizing field, so it have H. This is the magnetized material, so it will have M. Okay, this M is directly proportional to the intensity of magnetizing field, then inversely proportional to the absolute temperature. Absolute temperature means Kelvin temperature. Okay, so it means that M is proportional to H upon T, or M is equal to CH upon T, where C is called as Curie's constant. Curie's constant, right? So from here M upon H is equal to C upon T. Now M upon H, we will discuss later on, is nothing but the magnetic susceptibility. Chi M is equal to C upon T. This M upon H is a quantity, called this is a parameter called as magnetic susceptibility. We will discuss this later on in this section only. So M upon H is equal to C upon T, and M upon H is replaced by chi M. So chi M is equal to C upon T. This statement, this is called as Curie's law. Okay, this is Curie's law, that magnetic susceptibility of a paramagnetic material is inversely proportional to the absolute temperature. Absolute temperature means Kelvin temperature. Inversely proportional. If this absolute temperature will be high, then this magnetic susceptibility will be low, and this magnetic susceptibility is a factor that decides that how much the material will get magnetized. Okay, so the quantity of magnetization will be less, the intensity of magnetization will be less if this chi M will be less, and it depends inversely on the absolute temperature. Okay. Now here we can draw a graph of M versus this is H upon T. Okay, so from here you can see this, from this function M is proportional to H upon T, directly proportional. So what happens, that it increases first and then later on becomes parallel, right? Increases, the value of M increases first with H upon T, initially increases, and then it becomes parallel. This point where it becomes parallel is called as MS, called as saturation, or the value of saturation for intensity of magnetization. Okay, value of saturation for intensity of magnetization means you applied a magnetic field, they were having a random direction. Okay, if you were having like this, now you applied an external magnetic field, and what happened, these differently directed the dipole moments, they start aligning themselves along the direction of the magnetic field. Now if you go on increasing this value, if you go on increasing the strength of this external magnetic field, you will get a point where all the atoms will be, the dipole moment of all the atoms will be aligned in the same direction. Now after that, if you increase this value, if you increase the strength, after that no more alignment can take place, because already all the atoms are there, all the individual dipole moments are already aligned, so further alignment cannot take place. So after that, if you increase the value of M, if you increase the intensity of magnetization of this material, that cannot further align the atoms, because all of them are already aligned, so you get a saturated value. Further, after that, if you increase the value of H upon T, it is not going to increase the value of M. Okay, so it will have a fixed value after that. So this type of graph we get, right? This is called as, this part here, this is Curie law region. Okay, and this is saturation region. Saturation region. So this part of this Curie law, and this part is for saturation region, where Curie's law is not holding good, right? Okay, then we move on to the third one, and that is ferromagnetic materials. Ferromagnetic materials like iron, cobalt, nickel, and their origination was given by Weiss, and he gave a theory which is called as domain theory. Okay, right? So this is the reason of ferromagnetic behavior of the materials. Now what are ferromagnets? Ferromagnets are nothing but you can say a stronger form of paramagnetism. Okay, a stronger form of paramagnetism. So what could be the definition? The materials which get strongly magnetized, along the direction of magnetizing field are called as ferromagnetic materials. So now once again I would like to repeat: diamagnetic, feebly magnetized, opposite in direction. Okay, paramagnetic, along the direction, feebly magnetized. Ferromagnetic, along the direction, strongly magnetized. Right? Now the reason for their ferromagnetic behavior is that it is because of that individual atoms, they have very strong dipole moment. Okay, an atom or a group of atoms have a very strong just a minute. Have a very strong dipole moment. It means this region have a group of atoms whose dipole moment is along the same direction. Right? They all have the dipole moment along the same direction. But there is another group which is having a different direction, like this. Here. Then there is another group which is having like this. Then there can be another group which is having this direction, or it can have another group like this. So there are different groups. Okay, the individual atoms. Yes. Yes.
Sir, can you please again repeat the definition of ferromagnetic? I was disconnected.
Sure. Ferromagnetic materials are those which get strongly magnetized along the direction of magnetizing field. Okay, the field which is magnetizing the material, along that direction they get strongly magnetized. Right? Now I was telling you the reason of this strong magnetization. The reason is that I told you that they have the domains like this. Okay, each domain have a particular direction of the dipole moment. A domain have a group of atoms, and that whole group of atom is having a dipole moment in the same direction. So they constitute a domain. This domain is having few atoms which have the same direction of dipole moment, this one. Okay, so now here instead of individual atom, they have the domains, and each domain have a fixed direction of its dipole moment, although these domains themselves are randomly directed. Okay, their direction is random. Now what happens when we place this inside a magnetic field? Now two things can happen. Either the whole domain can shift its position, they can align themselves along the direction of the magnetic field, means like this. Suppose like this. Okay, so either they will all of them will start rotation and they will align themselves along the direction of the external magnetic field, or what can happen is those domains, like suppose this one, this is along the direction of magnetic field, so it will increase its size, right? And all those which are oppositely directed, suppose there we have one, this is oppositely directed, so it will decrease in size, like this. So all those domains which are along the direction of the magnetic field, they increase their size. Okay, they become big, right? They increase their size, and all those which are oppositely directed, they decrease their size. Those are in between, whose direction is not opposite, not along, they decrease this. Their size get decreased by a small amount. Means it depends. What happens is that all those domains which are along the direction of magnetic field, magnetizing field, they dominate the material. They increase their size and they dominate the material. So as a result, they develop a strong magnetic field in this direction. because either all the domains are directed along the direction of the magnetic field, so their magnetic field, they will develop a strong magnetic field in that direction, or due to this reason also that the domains which have the identical direction to the magnetizing field, they increase their size, and all those which are oppositely directed, they decrease in size. As a result, the material develops a strong magnetic field along the direction of the magnetizing field. Okay, this is the reason of ferromagnetism according to Weiss, who gave this domain theory. Right now, this also depends on the temperature, but it is not like that means unlikely to that paramagnetic materials. There is a different kind of dependence, some complex kind of dependence is there of this ferromagnetic behavior on the temperature of the material. For that we have a Curie-Weiss law. Dependence of ferromagnetism on temperature. Modified Curie's law. Modified Curie's law. Okay. So what it states is that the expression for this is C dash upon T minus Tc. First of all, I am writing the expression where T is more than Tc. Right? Okay. Suppose, I will discuss this now. Suppose we have a ferromagnetic material, right? So if we go on increasing the temperature of this ferromagnetic material, at one point you will find that you will get some value of temperature. At that temperature, what you will find that if you will increase the temperature furthermore beyond this Tc, the domains start to break up. Means this domain structure breaks up and your ferromagnetic material gets converted into the paramagnetic material. Individual dipole moment atoms will have. Okay. So what is this? This temperature is called as, this one is called as critical temperature. So what is critical temperature? It is the temperature beyond which, when the temperature of the ferromagnetic material is increased, it gets converted into a paramagnetic material. That is critical temperature, right? Now this magnetic susceptibility, right, depends inversely on the excess temperature to the excess temperature beyond the critical temperature. Right, in paramagnetic materials, during where this paramagnetic materials were following the Curie's law, there we have that the magnetic susceptibility was inversely proportional to the absolute temperature. Here it is not inversely proportional to the absolute temperature, rather it is inversely proportional to the absolute temperature excess to the critical temperature. Means whatever is the critical temperature, after that how much temperature it is having, it depends on that, right? Where C dash is called, this C dash is called as Curie-Weiss constant. Okay, the C dash is a constant called as Curie-Weiss constant. Right? So this type of dependence is there. This is a little bit complex kind of dependence on temperature. So like this they depend, right? So this was about your different three types of magnetic materials, the classification of magnetic materials. Okay, now we move on to few terms related to this magnetism, important terms. The first one is the magnetizing field. Magnetizing field, right? This magnetizing field, we denote this by B naught. Magnetizing field is the external field that will magnetize the material. Okay, what is the source of magnetic field? It is the current. And how can you generate a magnetic field? How can you generate a changing magnetic field? That we already have discussed, that we can enclose a area inside a solenoid, and with the help of that we can generate a desired kind of magnetic field in that particular region. So we will suppose that the external magnetizing field, the magnetizing field is nothing but the field of a solenoid, right? So this B naught is equal to mu naught Ni. Okay, this is your magnetizing field. Now you will have to be clear about these words: magnetizing field, magnetized field. Magnetized is different and magnetizing is different. This is the field of that particular magnetic field who's magnetizing the material. And when the material gets magnetized, it creates its own magnetic field. That is different, right? So this is magnetizing field, which will be given by B naught equals to mu naught Ni, right? Then next is magnetic induction. Magnetic induction. Okay, what is magnetic induction? Suppose this is a material, right? I place this inside a solenoid, right? Then this solenoid is creating some magnetic field, that is B naught. Okay, then this magnetizing material, this magnetic material also gets magnetized, and suppose it forms a magnetic field B dash, right? So what is magnetic induction? Simply you can say the part of simply just a little, let me make a change. Simply you consider that the part of this magnetizing field, okay, which is you can say that which is creating the magnetization in this material, right? Suppose what simply means that suppose your solenoid can be of this length also, right? But the magnetic field here in this region is not affecting the material. The magnetic field in this region is also not affecting the region. Only this part magnetic field is creating the magnetization of this material, right? So that is magnetic induction. All right. So simply it is that what is and how much will be the magnetic field here? This B naught plus the amount of magnetic field which is created by this magnetic material. Suppose it is B dash. So how much is magnetic induction? This is B naught plus B dash. How much is the total magnetic field in that region where the object is placed? That is your magnetic induction. Or simply you can say that how many total magnetic lines of forces are passing through the material. Okay, and how many will be that? It will be equal to the magnetic field of this plus the magnetic field of the material itself. So that will be your magnetic induction, right? SI unit, since it is nothing but a magnetic field only, so SI unit is Tesla. Okay. Now we move on to the third definition, and that is magnetizing field intensity. So I will write this formula here because we will need this later on. B naught equals to mu naught Ni, right? Magnetizing field. Now next is third one is magnetizing field intensity. Magnetizing field intensity, which is denoted by H. Magnetizing field intensity. What is the strength of magnetizing field? Okay, it is weak or it is strong. What kind of strength it is having? And it is suppose you have a region, and suppose this is the region, and I enclose this region in this type of solenoid, and the same region suppose I enclose in this type of solenoid, right? So there is a difference. The difference is that how many turns, how many times the current is threading through the region in which the object will be placed. So here that number of times the current will thread is more, and here the same thing is less. So what we will say, that the magnetizing field intensity, right? The intensity of magnetizing field will be stronger here, will be lesser here. Although the same current is passing through both the solenoids, and the material of the coil is similar, everything is same, but only that number of turns is defining that how many times the current will thread through that region, and therefore what will be the strength of that the magnetizing field. So what is H? H is nothing but N into I. Okay, right? So H is in magnetizing field intensity, number of times that current is threading through that region. It is your H. So what is your new formula of B naught? Equals to mu naught times H. You have a new formula, and from here you can say that H equals to B naught upon mu naught. Right? These are few formulas that you will have to remember. Okay? Only for just you will have to remember these formulas that we are discussing. So this is your magnetizing field intensity. Now next term is the fourth one is intensity of magnetization. Intensity of magnetization, and it is denoted by M. Intensity of magnetization means, now what is the intensity of the magnetic field of the material which is magnetized? Okay, just a minute. Once again I would like to repeat this. This is your solenoid, this is the material. Now the magnetic field of this solenoid is B naught, right? Okay, then the intensity of this B naught is H. Okay, now this material gets magnetized, and that is suppose B dash. The intensity of that magnetic field is M. Okay, the strength of this B naught is H, the strength of this magnetic field which the material has created is M. That is your intensity of magnetization. Now how you will find out this intensity of magnetization? We have suppose B equals to mu naught Ni. We have this formula, right? So what you can say that due to the magnetization of this material, what you can say that if we have already discussed this earlier also, that we say that current is the reason for the development of magnetic field. Means if current will be there, then magnetic field will be there. Similarly, if magnetic field is present at some place, then you can say that current is also there. Okay, so here this material is magnetized. So if magnetic field is there, then we can say that there is some current flowing through the material, and let us suppose that that current is Im, current due to magnetization of the material, right? So how much will be this M? M is equal to N Im, just a minute. Right. Okay, what is M? This is the magnetic dipole moment developed. Magnetic dipole moment developed in the material, right? And per unit length. Okay, we have that formula M equals to Ia. From there we obtained this formula M equals to, not per unit length, sorry, the total. Right. This one. The magnetic dipole moment developed, we have that formula M equals to Ia. If suppose the n turns are there, then the formula becomes M equals to Nia, right? So the total dipole moment developed in the material is N, the number of turns of the coil, Im, the current due to magnetization, and A is area, right? So what will be M vector? Equals to the dipole moment developed per unit volume. This is the definition of intensity of magnetization. The dipole moment developed in a material per unit volume is the intensity of magnetization. That will tell you that how much intense is the magnetic field developed. Okay, so M is equal to NIMA, right, upon V is equal to, you can say, A into L. Okay, so this will be, this was actually per unit length only. Magnetic dipole moment developed per unit length. M equals to NIMA. Yes, for one means unit length. And if suppose you want to find for some length, then you will have to multiply it with the length. So if suppose here we are finding this M for per unit length, so this L will become 1 because we are considering for unit length, and A will cancel. NIM will be your formula for M. This is the formula for intensity of magnetization, right? We can have another formula for this intensity of magnetization, and that is, so we can write this formula here. M is equal to NIM. This is your intensity of magnetization. We can have another formula. Suppose M equals to Qm into the dipole moment developed in the material is the length of the material into Qm, the magnetic charge developed, Qm into 2L, and V is equal to area into length, the cross-sectional area of the material multiplied by length. So what will be the dipole moment? It is M upon V as per the definition. Intensity of magnetization is magnetic dipole moment developed per unit length. So this is Qm into 2L upon A into L. L will get cancelled. So 2 times you have, oh sorry, this should be 2L because the length is 2L, right? So 2L will cancel and you get Qm upon A. That is also a formula for intensity of magnetization, right? So now finally what we get here? What is the net magnetic field is equal to the magnetizing field, the strength of that magnetizing field, plus the magnetic field developed due to the magnetization of the material. The total magnetic field in that region, that B dash, which I was taking earlier as B dash, is actually BM, magnetic external magnetic field. Once again I will drop the speaker. This is the magnetic field created by this is B naught, right? The material is placed here. The magnetization of this material will create a magnetic field, that is BM. Okay. So what is the total magnetic field? It is B naught plus BM. Now how much is B naught? We have the formula B naught is equal to mu naught H. This one. B naught equals to mu naught H. And BM is equal to mu naught M. Okay. So therefore it is equal to mu naught H plus M. This is your important formula, that the total magnetic field is mu naught times the sum of H and M, intensity of magnetizing field plus the intensity of magnetization. Okay. Then we have few small terms at last. First one is magnetic permeability. Magnetic permeability, which is denoted by mu, and it is nothing but the ratio of B and H, right? This total magnetic field developed, the total magnetic field developed per unit intensity of magnetizing field, that is your value, that is your magnetic permeability called as mu, right? Dimensional formula MLT minus, yes, dimensional formula is MLT minus 2 amperes. This is for current, right? A raised power minus 2, and SI unit is Tesla meter per ampere. This is your SI unit. Okay. Next is Your sixth term is relative permeability. Relative permeability, which is denoted by mu r. Okay, and this mu r is nothing but mu upon mu naught. Right, the ratio of permeability of the material to the absolute permeability is called as relative permeability. Okay, and this mu r for vacuum is equal to 1. This real, because if this is vacuum or the free space, then this will become mu naught upon mu naught will become 1 only. Okay, right, and for example mu of iron, right, it is more than 1000, right, mu r for iron, right. This mu r is a simple ratio, so mu r for iron, this value of mu r is more than 1000. Okay, the next is magnetic susceptibility. Seventh is magnetic susceptibility, which is denoted by chi m, and it is the ratio of m over h. This is again a dimensionless scalar quantity that tells us that to what extent the material can be magnetized. Okay, so this is chi m is equal to the intensity of magnetization developed per unit intensity of magnetizing field, m upon h. Right. The last one is relation of mu r and chi m. Relation of mu r and chi m. So what we have, B equals to mu naught h plus m, right? B equals to mu naught h plus m. Yes, but how much is B? It is mu h. So you can say that mu h is equal to mu naught h plus m. Now divide the whole equation by h, so you get mu is equal to mu naught 1 plus m upon h, right? You bring this mu naught here, so this you get mu upon mu naught is equal to 1 plus m upon h. Now mu upon mu naught is mu r and m upon h is chi m, so mu r equals to 1 plus chi m. This is the relation between the relative permeability and the magnetic susceptibility.